Please listen carefully.
Hello, universe, and welcome to the Optimist Daily Update. I'm Kristy Jansen.
And I'm Summers McKay.
And we are part of the team behind the Optimist Daily, making solutions the news. We bring you reader-funded solutions news every day in order to change the tenor of news media, social media, and the direction of your day to one focus on solutions.
7 days a week, we publish positive news stories written by award-winning journalists and delivered online to your inbox and through our social channels. And also, we are sharing these solutions in a commute-worthy, walk-worthy, home office-worthy podcast. Today is Wednesday, the 2nd of June, 2021. Hello, Kristy. How are you today? Happy Hump Day.
Happy Hump Day, Summers. I'm doing great. It's a Wednesday.
Good. It's Wednesday. Yeah.
I have to get going because I have another meeting.
You do.
So let's just dive right in.
I know. Okay, so on
fun stuff to talk about from these.
I know. On Wednesdays we usually make a joke about Hump Day and like the 14-year-old boy and all of us like giggles, but we are gonna talk about sex today. We are going to talk about sustainable sex. Does that sound fun, Kristy? You want to do it?
It does. And I think we should talk about sustainable sex. And part of what we need to talk about with sustainable sex is ending our social media addictions.
Right.
Which is the headline
we're going to tell you today how to have sustainable sex and how to get to it by putting down your damn phone.
Well, because it's just funny in the context of when we were talking about, okay, so what are we going to put in here for our headlines? One of the headlines gives you some tips on how to ditch your social media addiction. And I know that we're all so connected to our devices. And I've been thinking about this, and specifically in the context of my relationship with my husband, because I find that there are so many evenings and mornings, and we'll be sitting there on our phones and not talking to each other. And I just, even what we may make a decision, okay, we're going to just put him down and connect. We're going to have dinner together. But then almost compulsively, we pick up our phones again. We pick up our devices. And once you start scrolling your feeds or you watch a video, then just keeps feeding you the next version of what it knows you're going to want. It's really hard to disconnect. So anyway, this article talks about that. A couple of the tips are, first of all, think about why you like to be on social media. Before you open up your Instagram feed, ask yourself, why are you feeling compelled to check it out? Are you needing to check in on see what everyone else is doing? Are you just bored? Is it just habit? Figure out if you actually, are you looking for validation? What is it that's motivating you? And you can make a choice. Is it something you want to continue there or not?
I think it's also really important to like ask yourself the question and then not judge yourself for the answer, right? So I know that there is a tremendous escapism that comes from being able to just scroll on social media. It's like shutting your brain off when you can't shut your brain off in any other way, or you haven't developed tools to shut your brain off in any other way. So if the answer is I go on here because I need a moment of release, once you say that and you know it, you can maybe start looking for other methods of release.
Right. Maybe you go watch, something on TV. No, I'm just
or
kidding.
You read a book,
or
you brew yourself a cup of tea, or you get that tea recipe from
you
Kristy.
Open a physical book and you spend a little time reading some great poetry. I don't know, but it's something to think about. And if it's being detrimental to you, then that's something to worry about. If it's not, and it's just sort of fun, and then great. Another thing to think about is being meticulous on who you follow or what you follow and what you choose to share. So like we always caution people against watching too much news or reading too much news because it can be very distressing. Being too indiscriminate with the different folks you're following on social media can also lead you down to crazy rabbit holes or make you feel inadequate because of who you're competing with. Also, choosing how much time you really want to spend online.
I want to add to that, though. Okay. Also, be meticulous about who follows you. If you have a public profile, fine. Let your profile be public. I do. That's part of what we do. But I go through and I look at Instagram accounts that are following me. And like there was like literally one called Thick Soldier Babes. And it was completely a porn spam account that was following me that had no business following me. I don't want them to have my data. I don't want to be in the algorithm. And so I blocked them. And I think that who you follow, but also who you allow to follow you. Yes, those of us in the news media tend to have public accounts, but you can block spam accounts. You can block the bots that are going to be sending weird messages. If you get unsolicited messages, just block the person. Like, you don't need to let everyone in your life, even if you are a public figure and have a public account.
Right. And similarly, not everything that happens in your life has to be posted or shared in those places, right? Yeah. So again, being meticulous about your relationship and putting intention into it on all different areas, in all different ways, changing your notification settings so that you don't get a pop-up every time somebody else posts, somebody you follow posts, and just acknowledging that it's okay to put down your phone and choose to do other things with your time. Like, for example,
exactly, enjoying life.
Turning to that person next to you in your bedroom, or even just yourself.
Yep, right? You on your own. All right, let's do it. Let's talk about sex, baby. I've been wanting to do that all day. I've been like desperate to sing that song. And now I'm kind of embarrassed that I did, but whatever.
What's your headline, Summers?
All right. My headline reads, sustainability is taking over our lives, sex lives included. Now, as many of you know, I had a organic lubricant business, which I personally ran prior to coming on board at the Optimist Daily. I launched my own company. I hosted a podcast called Lovegasm. I was very, very into understanding and talking about sex and normalizing good, healthy sex for the world. I got over my head. I didn't have the financing required. It's never, it can be a good idea to start a business without tremendous amounts of financing, but it's not a great idea to continue to run one without financing. And I realized that I just didn't have what it took to get into the market. But what I did know and learn was about the absolute insustainability of the sex toy industry and the sex market for all of the products that help people experience their own sexual pleasure. So as it turns out, a lot of sex toys are made with the intention, as we've called it many times, of planned obsolescence. They are products that intend to break in less than a year. And companies who built those toys just flat out didn't invest in long-term motors, all of the different,
that's planned obsolescence of your vibrator.
Right, exactly. So your vibrator is supposed to break after a year, because at the end of the day, whether users are purchasing them at the beginning of a relationship or when they've ended a relationship and want it on their own, there's just a lot of churn in the sex toy usage business. Well, instead of saying, all right, let's build like a vibrator for 30 years, because that's not probably a reasonable expectation for customers, some innovators in the industry are turning to building toys and products that are sourced sustainably and recyclable. The green sex market is what it's called. It's up and coming, and it's marketing sex toy brands that are starting to tap in as they realize sustainability is becoming a valuable factor to consumers around the world. There's an iconic brand called Womanizer, which is striving to lead the eco-friendly sex toy revolution with the launch of its first green sex toys called Premium Eco. Womanizer is just one of these companies who is doing this. There are a number of websites that also sell. There's one called organiclovin.com. There are also a lot of lubricants that are sustainably sourced, including, Aloe Cadabra, which is an aloe-based lubricant that's made out of the Santa Barbara area, Santa Barbara Ventura area in California. And basically, all of the actions that you're taking in your sex and intimate life, even if it's the packaging of the lubricant or the recyclability of the product itself, I think what I love about this story is it's meeting consumers where they're at, recognizing that the investment into sort of the rabbit for 30 years is not probably the goal, right? Because just like I was saying Tupperware, right? Old school Tupperware that lasts for 100 years is great because you're passing it from your grandmother on down, but nobody's passing on their vibrators. So if we're going to have these products that have planned obsolescence, then building them in sustainable ways and allowing them to be recycled is so critical. And I love that this particular industry, and you don't think, and part of what I was challenged by in the intimacy industry was that I just felt a little overwhelmed by the intensity of the really heightened sexual nature of everything. I was just this like little boring girl who was like, let's make husbands and wives have better sex. And there was just so much more to the industry that I was not prepared to tap into. But I love seeing this. And I love that, you know, people who are sex workers and people who are professionals in this industry can also lead more sustainable and ecological efforts in sex lives. So guys, like girls, put down your phone, stop scrolling Instagram, grab a recyclable vibrator and get to That's what I'm saying on this hump day. And I really hope my parents aren't listening to this podcast, even though I know they do. They didn't listen to Lovegasm because I'm sure that was miserable. Anyway, I love this topic, as you guys can hear. And maybe I'm just like tapping into my Lovegasm days right here.
Well, I think that we should end it there, Summers.
You got it. We're done. We're done.
Nothing else to say. Mic drop.
Nothing else to say, except for there are some non-sexy headlines on the Optimist Daily today. So there's eating plant-based meals for dinner lowers your risk of heart disease. There is a map that can help you trace the history of water across the entirety of the United States. There is a free online program that helped 15,000 Black women embrace veganism. We were talking about food deserts and food security yesterday and some of the disproportionate ways that communities are more likely to have some of the dangerous food diseases, and that very much includes Black women, who are the #1 community at risk for heart disease. And I love the idea that education is evolving. New NASA image shows the spectacular beauty of the Milky Way's downtown, and the Maldives is building a floating city to adapt to climate change. Kristy, let's go to the Maldives for our next meeting.
And also there's an article about preparing your pet for your return to the office, because you don't want your pets to have that separation anxiety. So you got to think about them. Yep. Pets are people too, right, Summers?
They are. Hey, everybody, thank you for listening to today's Optimist Daily Update. Thanks for sticking in there with us, even though it was weird. We promise to continue to share positive solution-based stories with ideas on how you can participate in this changing world and ensure it is changed for the good. We promise to cover the current events with accuracy, legitimate sources, and offer you the information needed most to chart new paths for all of us. Please consider becoming an emissary for $5, $15, or $50 a month on optimistdaily.com. We had a record-busting May as far as our emissary membership growth, and we want June to kick its tail. So be part of the solution, changing consciousness and addressing our world's biggest challenges with a problem-solving mindset. Help us keep the Optimist Daily free to all who need it, supported by those who can.
Thanks, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow with more solutions.